Hi, it's me again. It's gone quiet about the boats at the moment, hasn't it? But I think that's because it's the middle of winter and not so many can cross. But most people in the UK have heard the same message for years, haven't we? Stopping illegal immigration is complicated, it's difficult, it takes time, our hands are tied. But the thing is, several other countries have already done it. They reduced illegal immigration dramatically using strategies that produced clear, measurable results. So the real question isn't whether it can be done. The real question is why hasn't it? Let's have a look at the facts and I'll tell you my opinion at the end, and perhaps you can tell me yours in the comments. So what actually worked elsewhere for other countries and why haven't those approaches been taken here? Could those approaches work for the UK? And what will take for the UK to finally get control of its borders? So let's look at some countries who've been successful in bringing down illegal immigration and how they've done it. Italy has seen a sharp drop in sea arrivals and is one of the clearest recent examples of a major European country that has successfully reduced illegal arrivals. In 2024, Italy recorded a large fall in migrants on the central Mediterranean route. Government figures and EU border data show a significant drop compared to 2023. So what did they do? Well, Italy signed a major agreement with Albania worth around €200 million to build and run asylum processing centres outside Italian territory. So this means that many asylum seekers are processed before they reach Italy. They also increased cooperation with Libya and Tunisia, helping their coast guards intercept boats before they reached European waters. Stricter operating rules were introduced for rescue ships as well, including returning to port after a single rescue. So this reduced the number of rescues close to North Africa. Italy also pushed the EU to focus more on external border control and less on redistributing migrants within Europe. As a result, Italy achieved a substantial fall in illegal sea arrivals and one of the biggest drops in Europe. Hungary takes one of the toughest approaches in Europe and as a result has had very low levels of illegal entry for years. They built extensive steel fences which ran along borders with Serbia and Croatia, and these fences were backed by police and military controls. People who were caught near the border were routinely pushed back into Serbia without being allowed to lodge asylum claims. For a long time, asylum seekers could only apply in tightly controlled transit zones. Later, Hungary required people to apply from embassies abroad, making spontaneous asylum claims almost impossible. Poland has also kept irregular migration numbers very low, even during periods of high pressure on Europe's borders. They fortified their border with Belarus, and during the Belarus border crisis, Poland built a high security fence backed by soldiers and border guards. People attempting to cross from Belarus were pushed back immediately without being allowed to claim asylum. Poland rejected EU plans to redistribute asylum seekers across member states and also refused the financial penalties that were meant to replace relocation. As a result, Poland has kept illegal migration exceptionally low, largely through physical barriers. And the United States saw major changes in illegal migration patterns due to border and asylum policies introduced under President Trump. Asylum seekers arriving at the southern border were required to wait in Mexico while their cases were processed, and this drastically reduced the number allowed into the US. Hundreds of miles of new or reinforced barriers were built along the US-Mexico border, and people who travelled through another country without seeking asylum there first were barred from applying in the US, and rapid expulsion policies were introduced. So these measures reduced the number of people able to enter the US to claim asylum. Policies that actually reduced illegal immigration fall into some clear categories: externalising asylum processing, building hard physical borders, restricting asylum access, and cooperating with transit companies to stop departures. So what has the UK done under the current Labour government? Well, since taking office, Labour has introduced a series of policies aimed at tackling illegal immigration. But when you look at the results, a clear pattern emerges. Lots of announcements, but very little, if any, measurable impact. First, Labour introduced a Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill. This is their flagship plan, a new Border Security Command, more powers to target smuggling gangs, and the formal end of the Rwanda scheme, which was introduced by the Conservatives. But here's the key point: none of this has produced any measurable reduction in illegal immigration. Crossings have not fallen. Next, the government announced targeted sanctions against individuals and groups involved in people smuggling, asset freezes, travel bans, financial restrictions, all designed to disrupt criminal networks. But again, the results tell a different story. Small boat arrivals actually hit record highs after these measures were introduced. So by mid-2025, more than 46,000 people had crossed the Channel since Labour took office, the highest number ever recorded at that point in the year, and removals just 5% of the arrivals. And most recently, Labour announced a one-in, one-out migration policy, a headline-friendly slogan that sounds tough, but in practice, it hasn't changed the numbers. Boats continue to arrive, including days with more than 200 people crossing in a single 24-hour period. So when you strip away the speeches and the press releases, the reality is this: under the current Labour government, illegal immigration has not decreased, it has increased. And none of the policies introduced so far have produced a measurable reduction in small boat crossings. Which brings us to the real question: if other countries have implemented strategies that clearly worked, why hasn't the UK adopted any of them? And more importantly, what would it actually take for the UK to get control of its borders? The uncomfortable truth is that Britain has done the opposite of what successful countries did. And while other countries built hard infrastructure, fences, offshore centres, rapid response units, and policed their borders, the UK tried to police the Channel with a handful of boats and a patchwork of agreements with France, who has no obligation to enforce them, despite being paid large sums of taxpayers' money. Then there's the biggest difference of all. Successful countries stopped the boats before they even launched, and the UK has never done this. Well, not the government, anyway. So what would it actually take for Britain to get control of its borders? It's not a mystery. The evidence is already out there. Firstly, stop departures at source. That means binding enforceable agreements with France, not handshakes, not funding, but real leverage. Second, externalise asylum processing. Make a functioning offshore system that actually operates. Third, restrict spontaneous asylum claims. And fourth, build real border capability and detention capacity. So put simply, the UK would need to do what every successful country did and commit to it. So why haven't we? Well, critics claim that if the UK truly wanted to stop illegal immigration, it would have already implemented the measures that worked elsewhere, and that the UK's repeated failure to adopt proven strategies suggests lack of political will. This is a legitimate viewpoint held by many, and the evidence shows that the UK has not implemented the strategies that worked elsewhere. Is that because it can't, or because it won't? Well, in my opinion, where there's a will, there's a way. And the countries that took decisive, consistent action, well, they found a way. But the UK didn't. And until it does, the border will remain exactly as it is today, a problem everyone talks about but no one solves. So to take back control of our borders, the only answer, in my opinion, is a new government, one that has the will, and that is Advance UK. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And in these worrying times, please remember, you're not alone. Bye for now.